A very important step of taking care of your Singer Promise 2 model 1512 is taking the time to clean it and oil it. Now, where are we talking? We're talking down in the bobbin area. I'm going to show you how to take this plate off, take out the bobbin case, and go one step further where we're going to brush out all the lint down here, and I'm going to show you where to oil. So first off, you are going to need the little screwdriver also from your accessory box. And why are we needing to do this in the first place? Well, sewing is a very linty activity. When you start using fabrics like flannels and fleeces, even batting can all create this nest of fluff down in this area. Of course, once it starts to continue to grow, it absorbs the oil away from the metal moving parts. So I usually recommend our students to do this every 2 to 5 bobbins. If you're having any skip stitches, your thread is breaking, things just aren't working well, you've changed your needle, hopefully, and you've probably heard me talk about good quality thread. Quality thread doesn't leave as much lint to add to this continuing issue. That is something to really make a point to use quality thread. So the first thing I'm going to do is just unthread my needle. You don't have to unthread the whole machine if you don't. If you do want to take out your needle, that will give you a little bit more safety. Then go ahead and take your presser foot off. I'm just talking about the little lower piece that snaps on and off by pressing the button on the back of the foot area. Next, take the screwdriver and loosen these 2 screws right here. Now, the first time you do this, they are going to be very tight. So just go ahead. Once you get them loose, you definitely don't have to make them so tight for future loosening and taking these out. But you will take these out because underneath the throat plate will be where all the lint is going to start to gather. The next thing I want you to do is make sure you do not use canned air. We don't want to blow anything into this machine. That's why a brush comes with your machine. This is on the other side of your seam ripper. We're going to be brushing out any lint that we find. A Q-tip, a makeup brush, a miniature vacuum where you're sucking out all the lint, that is really key. So you can take off the throat plate. That's as easy as that is. Next, let's take out our bobbin case. You could do this in almost any order. Remember, use your left index finger to get a hold of that little latch and pull straight out. The last part is these 2 little black arms. So as you notice that when they are pushed to the sides, one to the left, one to the right, this circle will hop off apparently. But before I go too much further, do note that the circle has kind of this is called a race cover. There's kind of a little part at the top here that will sit, but it does have this little kind of notch or nub at the bottom, and it has its own perfect area for putting it back in. So the race comes out first and the hook comes out second, and that's it. So this hook is kind of like a moon shaped. This part here goes back and forth to create your stitch every time you take one stitch. So this metal part rubs against metal parts. That's where all the lint will go and absorb all the oil out. And all you're really needing to do is take a little bit of the oil, and you can just kind of squeeze it onto this edge. And then if you want, you can even kind of give it a little, move it around. Now, putting it back in, you can kind of see that there's a half a moon here. This is the other half. So I'm going to kind of set it in there. It will actually, it doesn't click in. It just has one place that it looks like it sits in perfectly. You see this little sharp point or the hook area kind of is sitting kind of underneath that little area, and if we even kind of twist it, it should not fall out. Once you know that that is in there correctly, we're going to take that race cover. I usually find the point at the end first, line that up and just kind of slide it all in there. That's like holding everything in place. Once again, that's located incorrectly. These little arms will just slide into position. Now, if you want to check before you put your bobbin case in that everything is feeling good, this should turn very freely at this point. And you can see now why that oil is so important around that outside edge. At this point, the only thing I would do is I would put everything back together, but I'll put my needle on last. So you can go do the throat plate. We'll take your screws and just kind of get them kind of started here with your fingers. You can kind of give them a little swivel. They'll kind of roll down into position, and you can use your screwdriver at the very end to tighten them up just a little bit. If you haven't changed needles, make sure you're putting a new needle in. If you can't remember the last time you put a new needle in, it is time. Just go ahead and find your packs and put it in. The reason I have you put your needle in absolutely at the end is so you can easily use the presser foot that's been reattached as kind of a guide. Remember, flat side to the back on the needle, and that hole should be right on the front, but it really gives me a place of where that opening is at the top. Make sure you get it all the way at the highest position, and then you can finish threading the machine. And if you've given your machine a little oil at this time, make sure that you do a little test sewing. Sometimes some oil will come up on the fabric or thread, and you definitely don't want to be sewing with something or on something white that oil might stain it just a little bit. So I'm going to thread my needle, and then I'm going to hold this thread. I'm going to bring my bobbin thread all the way up to the top so I can do that little test sewing. So presser foot up, pull up the little loop, close up everything from the front. You'll probably notice immediately your machine sounds a lot quieter, and that's because of the oil. And then also, let's just take a look. Yep, my color of my thread is a little darker than normal, so just go ahead. Sometimes what I'll do is just lift this up, turn around, and keep sewing back and forth a few times until I really see that thread is back to its natural color. A couple times should do it. Unless you put a lot of oil in, it might take a few extra passes. So since you're doing this every 2 to 5 bobbins, cleaning and oiling, you should put it on your schedule to have your sewing machine serviced about once a year. Take it into your local sewing machine store, and they will do all the rest of the maintenance needed that's on the inside of the machine. They can make sure everything gets back on track, super smooth, and all lined up for an enjoyable following year of sewing.